Hey everyone, welcome back in Betsperts Golf here for our first look at the 2025 Mexico Open. I'm Ryan Noonan. I am what Andy would refer to not only as his friend. You can make the case that this past week I was your best friend because on this very show,
confidant.
thank you for being. Was that Empty
And
Nest?
threw a party because we hit a 25-1. No, that was such an asshole move by me. Like, I was mad about one and done and how it turned out, and I'm like, I'm going to cheer against Ludwig Aberg, even though I know it's the perfect course for him. He's a fucking cyborg, and he should probably be in contention no matter what. Then we had the weird, I love Mav and I love like some of the other guys that were on the leaderboard, but there were some weird names on the leaderboard that I wasn't expecting due to some streaks of just really good play. Obviously, Scotty lurking the whole time. Rory forgetting to, I think I didn't see a lot of the footage. I'm assuming he putted left-handed because, I mean, it was just an embarrassing amount of missed short putts. But, yeah, it was nice to get a win. It was nice to get a win, especially when I lost every TGL bet I made last night by, one stroke?
Oh, no.
Which, by the way, stopping on Torrey Pines talk right now, if there's a chip off and somebody holes out from where they were chipping, that should be the end of it. That I think I've seen 5 different people with some actual golf clout tweet the same thing. That should have been the end of it. It felt so anticlimactic that Tommy, I would say I wanted to win the bet too. That would have been nice, but Tommy chipped that in from that far out, and then they still had other people to do it. I'm like, no, that should be the end of it. So just, kind of as a sidebar, the TGL was fun yesterday. Like,
yeah,
that's a weird conversation that nobody had. Is like, can you imagine if the NFL just said like, extra points are worth 3 now, like mid-season? There's games where somebody lost and that would have changed the score, or there, like a league just changing the rules mid-season feels crazy, but it's just, it doesn't matter because it's sim golf and it's low stakes and whatever. But they made the right call.
I like it. I like that they're.
No, the hammer thing was the right call. Like, it's funny.
Yeah.
You can easily gloss over the fact that it was kind of weird that just like, we're changing it mid stride, because it was 100% the right call. It made closer matches. It gave more chances for people to come back. And yesterday was fun. They should do it on Christmas. They should do it on like other days where there's like, a lot of people have the day off, and not everybody wants to watch NBA. Not some people don't like that.
The NFL definitely leaned into that this year for sure. So, yeah.
Anyway,
subscribers cleaned up on TGL. You were on the wrong side of it because we have some TGL touts in there with you. I know that you're.
No, I mean I made the right bet. I had CLV on all 3 bets. I had the best price. I should have been 3-0. It was hammer variance. That's all. Those people were lucky. It was bad bets. It was like, I made a bad bet that won yesterday though too. I had the over in the 4 Nations game. Where it was like 4-0 forever, and then suddenly there's like 5 goals in the last minute.
In the right side of it, hammer variance added to the lexicon. Definitely not something that I thought we'd be talking about in any context. I have no idea what that would have meant a year ago. But hammer variance, you were on the wrong side of it. But we got another TGL match tonight too, so we continue on.
This is AFC South Thursday Night Football. These are 2 like it's Ricky versus Kisner as a matchup. And it's 2 bad teams. We'll see. I'm probably taking the underdog.
It's still happening. It's still golf on the screen, sim golf or not. We'll take.
I'll watch it. Yeah.
You and I too. Like we're in the middle of the country, the northern part of the middle of the country, and it is absolutely brutal right now outside. So sim golf is all the closest thing we have to actual golf. So we'll take whatever we can get right now. I went and played some sim golf, took advantage of the holiday yesterday. Feels good. Just anytime you can swing the clubs, we'll have to lean into that as much as possible. So Mexico.
Are your kids at school today?
It's kids at school today. Yeah.
They called it off here. Too cold.
Smart.
25 below wind chills. They're worried about the diesel buses starting, or breaking down out in the country. They just said, ah. So this has been a 5-day weekend. I cannot get rid of these children. But yeah,
we had that on Wednesday. We had the preemptive snow day, and it didn't end up being much of anything. But yeah, I think maybe
those are the worst. They do it way ahead of time, and then you get like an inch of snow.
Yeah.
You Southern people don't know what we're talking about, but yeah, the kids have been at home for 5 straight days because of the holidays and weather. But at least there's been TGL. Thursday we get Mexican golf. Similar time zone, I think. I'm pretty sure Vedanta's Pacific time because of where it is in the ocean, so it doesn't start super early. Obviously, we'll get to that soon. We'll get some of these Florida courses where suddenly golf is. That's my favorite thing is getting to work and golf is on, like already on because they're on the East Coast and they start at a decent time.
Yeah.
West Coast golf leaves too much tinkering for you DFS folks. You're thinking about it, adding an extra first round leader bet, which I think is a super fun market this week because there's, oh man, what did Ron say in this preview? Nobody in the top 25, like 5 in the top 50. Corn Ferry guys, young guys, sponsor exemption, 20-year-olds, people you haven't heard of a ton, people who've been playing
Euros.
DP guys that have come over. Only 10 people that played Tory are playing in this 132-man field. So it's basically a whole different field. And there, obviously we're looking for bombers, but I think it goes deeper than that. And there's some very interesting names and some huge numbers. I think this is a fun one for, let's say there's obviously whatever your units are, but if you traditionally take $100 and split it up 4 or 5 ways, I think you want to split that up like 8 ways, the smaller bets this week. Like it's probably a good one to spread it out on some bigger long shots in this one, especially if you want to bet some, first round leader stuff.
So what I did this week, I have an allocated amount of money that turned into 7 bets in the outright market this week. And 5 of them are north of 70. So it's definitely that type of week. In the past, this is our 4th year coming to this track. We, in the beginning, we got Rom here, with obviously his Spanish ties. He thought it was a good event for him to come to. Finau would always come here. I know a lot of people structured like best ball strategy around Finau teeing it up in Mexico, and then that's gone. It's kind of a natural bye week as we transition to Florida, as you mentioned here, coming off of the West Coast stuff. So wide open, like you mentioned, this feels like a swing season event for the most part. And I think it's going to make some one and done discussions pretty interesting this week too, because there's definitely no layups, as you mentioned. That's just the caliber of player, and I think it invites more variance. I think is kind of what you're pointing out too. Just down the board, there's really no clear cream of the crop guys that we need to be just spending in the top 4. I think we are all like Akshay. I think Akshay is a fantastic golfer. There are some other quality caliber golfers in the fields, but definitely not a spot where I think we need to be attacking the top of the board at a higher rate than normal. So what is your, you mentioned bombers. That's definitely played itself out in spades. This is one of the longer tracks. It's actually what it is. It's the longest set of par 4s and par 5s on tour. So that's really what it comes into. The distance off the tee matters a ton. They're growing the rough out a little bit, but it's still just 2.5 inches versus 1.5. It's sticky past ballum. So even that, sometimes you can get a ball sitting up a little bit compared to that thicker, the rye that we had last week too. Big greens, it's a resort course. There's a lot of water, but most of that's on the approach. So it is definitely a club head cover off, grip it and rip it. When you look at the numbers, which Ron and I did yesterday on the preview show, you're kind of kicking around 12, 15% driver usage over a PGA Tour average event.
Yeah, and it's interesting too. The 1.5 inch rough is so funny. Like that's not rough. Yeah, and I know Paspalum is a little different in how it grabs at the ball when you're hitting it, and maybe affects some of the spin and control you have. But a ball, an average, it's not quite 1 3/4. It's slightly below it. But a golf ball is more than 1.5 inches in diameter. Like it's not rough if the ball, if mashed against the ground is still sticking up above the grass a little bit. Like that's not rough at all. So 2.5 is still pretty weak, but like you said, and I don't know if you mentioned the fairway width either. It's super wide.
Wide,
It's not
41
not
yards
just
on average. Yeah.
yeah, not just easy rough, but wide fairways. That said, you're gonna have to hit some long, second shots, 200 plus on a lot of these. Not a lot of wedge shots, not a lot of short irons, even depending on where you end up on some of these fours. And like you said, heavy driver usage, big greens. So around the green is probably something we're not looking at a ton this week. If you're hitting, if you really have to rely on your around the green play, you're probably not playing very well.
Correct.
And you're ejecting anyway at that point. You need to be hitting these greens. There's been some good quotes from players on that too. They said like the greens are huge and you're going to hit them, but you still got to find the right spots. And that's another spot I wanted to look at. Lag putting, 3-putt avoidance. It's a scoring place, but it's not like 30 under.
Right.
It's probably going to be 18 to 22, somewhere in there. It's low scoring, but not absolutely scoring fest like we see in Hawaii. So you do need to save par on a few of these where it's like, well, this is a longer hole. It's one of the tougher holes. And, when I hit this green, I have a 45-foot, 65-foot, whatever it is, 85-foot lag putt I got to hit here to find myself a par. And I think, 3-putt avoidance, driving distance. If anyone's talked about did you talk about the fairways yesterday? How the rollout's going to be a little different. It doesn't let the ball roll out quite as much. So, if you want to look at driving distance, maybe carry distance. It's funny. I had to look at that. I looked at last year's model. My favorite thing is just pulling up and like, what stats did I use? And it was a lot of like just form and then like ball striking. And then I looked at maybe it was form in weak fields, easy scoring conditions, something along those lines. It was, I don't remember what exact SG stat I used, but it was that. And then club head speed was what I used. Basically, I thought it was a good stat to use for both driving and approach.
Yeah.
Because
we touched on it yesterday. We looked at club head
fairway woods quite a bit, I believe. Just with some of these longer distance holes, club head speed is going to come into play twice on some of these holes, big time.
Yeah, we touched on it. We looked at it yesterday. Again, having carry distance is something that's unique to the rabbit hole as well, because you're not getting the rollout. Trying to look at a little bit of deltas between carry and overall driving distance. Who's benefiting from rollout? You're going to get less of that here for sure. We both kind of agreed yesterday that club head speed maybe a little bit more relevant when you have the thicker rough too, because you need to be able to hack that ball out of it. But I get your point, because you're dealing with so many 200, 225, 250 plus approaches. That's why the fairway or the rough length matters a little bit less, because typically the rough becomes a problem when you're dealing with wedge shots. You need to control spin and hold it, where a lot of these are running up anyway. You know what I mean? You're not necessarily trying to spin back a 4-iron or, do anything ridiculous with a hybrid or a fairway wood. You're just trying to get the ball up there, really, and get it on the putting surface. So when you look at the actual numbers too on the 3-putt stuff, it's not really anything out of line. I thought so too. I was looking a little bit on Sunday night, and lag putting, 3-putt avoidance, all mostly in line with PGA Tour average events as well, which is a little bit surprising considering average proximity being further away than your standard events, big greens. You think you'd be able to, have some issues there with 3-putts and stuff like that. But I guess the average birdie putt shorter here, so you are seeing guys make those longer putts a little less frequently, but for the most part, kind of right in line with the tour average event.
Yeah, that's some of the other stats that you could look at this week. Maybe putting on the surface, but
they're so small. That's the problem.
A small sample size that I think it may be better to just go look at, overall strokes gained on resort courses, on similar courses. Pull up like Puerto Rico and the other when we used to play at the other Mexican place, and Bahamas, and maybe even some of the coastal stuff, maybe even some of the Florida stuff on the longer tracks, depending, Congaree, Concession, like some of these courses that are similar. Look at that, because while we love that you can split it out on the rabbit hole and look at past bloom stuff, it just it's not going to be a very big sample size, and I don't know how much it's going to help you. So I think it's probably a better look to just go look at like last 3 years on similar courses, last 3 years on easy scoring courses, something along those lines.
Yeah, the past volume courses too are also the courses where we typically don't have shot lane data, right? They're the the courses that are the alt field events. So we have strokes gained total data for those, but we don't have it broken up into buckets. But we do have here, if you haven't seen this, our course stats page. You can get into the specifics of the course here. To what I think Andy's touching on too, you can go down to the corollary courses. I added this to my model. Like some of the stuff that you're touching on here, you're going to get.
Grand Reserve, El Cardinal Diamante. That was the one I was thinking of. Congaree. I didn't. Craig Ranch. I didn't say, but that makes sense. Kapalua, I guess, makes sense.
Yeah.
Scottsdale makes sense. It's just
driver heavy, I guess.
Yeah, driver
same
heavy,
thing.
Long.
Memorial Park, same thing. Par 71, driver heavy in Memorial Park. Scottsdale's the same. Plantation, driver heavy, wide fairways. Though obviously Kapalua, better fields. Not going to get a lot of those guys in this field playing Kapalua a lot. Craig Ranch, more of a birdie fest, but also another spot where you're taking a whole lot of driver, all that too. So some of the stuff that you could break down into the rabbit hole when you're wanting to classify some stuff here. You can see obviously driver heavy, a low miss fairway penalty. You see the par 4 scoring, par 5s, average par 4 scoring, and they're long. So that's where you get some of the specific run out here. You can get into any of the whole specific stuff. And then, Ron and I went into some of the details too. This is what I was looking at as Andy and I were talking in terms of the putting splits, in terms of 3-putt avoidance, lag putting, proximity putting, one putts, all that different stuff. This is where you can get into, getting actual sense of what driver heavy. People talk about it, they put it in their content. But what does that actually look like? What's the math behind driver usage? You can see here, on average, you're about 12% above tour average on driving distance. 320 plus, you're getting a lot of those too, even though that's mostly carry, which is definitely interesting to see. And obviously you can get into the approach stuff, the distribution, where you get into all of the approach stuff over 200 plus. You can see here, this is massive. Tour average event, 28.8% of your approach shots coming from 200 plus. Last 5 years here, we really only have 3 years here, but you're 37.6%, substantial amount of approach shots coming from over 200 plus. So, one of the main handicapping elements of the week for sure.
Yeah, not just a bomber's course, but somebody who can hit their fairway woods well, somebody who can hit their longer irons well.
Yeah.
And, I think that's where you can start to dig into the actual player pages. If you start to whittle it down, you have a handful of guys, obviously I don't expect someone to go click through 132 player pages and look at everyone. Maybe you're gonna, maybe you're nuts. Maybe you have some sort of sick disease that makes you want to do that. But I think once you whittle it down to a few guys, you start looking at that and looking at how they, how they'd have played on longer approaches, longer approach proximity, 200 plus proximity from the fairway, 200 proximity from the rough, and just seeing, like, hey, these guys are good off the tee, and they do a couple other things, but how are we looking on specific approach?
Yeah.
Because we're looking at approach, you're looking at everything from wedges to honestly driver. I mean, there's some approach shots that are driver out the deck, I guess.
DODs.
The whole set of everything. I do it.
You're a driver off the deck guy?
I've been known to.
Okay.
It ain't easy, but
it ain't easy. I don't even mess with it. I don't even mess with the driver off the deck. Just take the hybrid. You can see here, last year too, Nap at 19. But to your point that you were saying earlier, like, it's not like a crazy birdie fest. Sure, Finau ran away 24 last year. You're going to be in the upper teens. You might touch 20, but even when Rahm went in 22, 17 under, the course setup is fairly easy, but because it's so long.
Too, he was like 5-1.
He was like 3-1.
Was it that low?
Yeah,
I just
he was
remember
short.
opening. Oh, we have to go look at that.
Yeah, he was short.
I remember that. It's like, why is he playing here?
He's Spanish. Yeah,
I think it was a sponsors thing or something.
Yeah. Just, grow the game. It was the first year that we were here at this event or this track. So, Greg Norman track, by the way. So we're still doing that. Yeah, you can see here his top the leaderboard here. Not a ton of we're not pushing the upper teens and the 20s here for the most part. You're kind of in the low. I mean, look, you're inside the top 20, right around 10 under. So we're not getting crazy on the score, even though the setup is fairly easy. You see the cut line here. Well, this does not break the cut down, but I think we were 1 under on the cut line. So still, because you have such a high distribution of shots from 200 plus, it's hard to tuck it close and get a ton of birdies here. So definitely a fun driver event too. A lot of water, but I thought 3M would have been a corollary course, but a lot of the 3M water is off the tee, whereas a lot of this is more like second shot water stuff, not a lot of water off the tee. So but definitely something to look at too. You can look at that in the rabbit hole as well. All right, Matt in the chat, good thing for Andy, your simulator form doesn't carry over the real thing. Right, got a winner last week, a little cold in the TGL, but you get back on the wagon today.
I think we started so hot. I mean, it was like a 5-0 start to TGL. It flew too close to the sun. Gonna have to get it back tonight. Matt also bet Denny 281 for Augusta. I can't come out and say he can't win.
It's also 280. He's added some distance.
Big number.
It's a big number. I actually was looking at Denny. There's some big numbers. FanDuel has players posted.
Yeah.
I was looking. I think Denny's he's big. He's mid. I want to say 170 or something like that for the players. Or that feels too big for a course that invites literally anyone in. It's a very, very hard handicapping week at the players because there's just no one skill set that wins there. It's just who plays really, really well that week. So Denny being really big at Sawgrass, I thought was pretty interesting. Harder sell for me at Augusta, but again, it's really hard for me to talk anyone out of a 280 on anything. To be honest. Yeah. What did Kevin on The Office, someone gives you 100 to 1 odds on anything?
If John Bon Jovi wins, I don't remember what it was in the Oscar.
Yeah.
A very rich man.
Someone gives you 200 to 1 odds on anything, you take it. So
I mean, there's been some Solar, Pop Gear. There's been some names out there already thrown out. Some people on Twitter have been betting wild long shots to start the week, which I love. That's so fun when someone's in contention, even if you just know someone third hand who has I don't know if I actually knew anyone who had a Jim Herman ticket that year. But that stuff is so wild because it's this guy was probably 10 to 1 to make the cut.
Yeah. I mean, the Wyndham Clark US Open win was just having triple digits. Anytime you get triple digits, that's banging on the door. It's pretty exciting. So, I mean, I got 1 triple digits on the card, but the rest are for the most part, 70 and beyond. So it's that kind of week for me too. Let's see what we can land on here. Have you built a model or have you just recycled the 2024?
I just recycled last year's. I'm going to rebuild it this afternoon.
Okay. All right, where do you want to start?
You're going to do one too.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Where do you want to start? Any anchor stats? Are we in anchor stats yet? Or are we?
I don't want to. I don't think you need good form to play here. I don't think form is a good stat to use because we have PGA only data, and we're going to have a bunch of guys coming from DP that's going to skew it. We got a bunch of guys who didn't play Tory. You go look at some of their events. You go back 2 events, it's like the RSM. So form is going to be dumb here, I think. I don't want an anchor stat.
Fair. Coastal courses, you want to do anything in terms of region? We could do corollary courses as a type of pseudo anchor stat. I want to let you drive the first one.
I mean, just let's not pussyfoot around. Just put driving distance in. I mean, every one of these models has to have something.
Yeah,
carry, driving distance, but all 3.
I did both. I did a hybrid. I did 15% carry and 5% driving distance just to kind of capture all of it in the model that I built for the week. But looking here, last 12 months, I did not put a minimum round feature. You're going to get some wonky sample sizes to Andy's point because, again, getting a lot of guys we don't see very, very often. Aldrich Point Goddard built like an absolute brick shithouse, a massive human being for a kid who just turned 20 years old, hits at a country mile.
That's the thing with this, Brian. It's not like a scoring stat.
Agreed.
This is a pure measurement stat by the tour. They pick, 2 holes per event. And, they're always like, here's the 2 holes where people use driver the most often.
Yeah.
And they measure your drives for those. And that's your driving distance. So it's
a good point.
For anyone who's worried about like when they club down and that affects this number. No, it is measured on grip it and rip it holes usually. And also because it is a measurement. And I don't think Aldrich has only played events in the Alps or, like at high altitude or, this is all Barracuda. It's certainly probably a correct number. Plus you just can go look and like, oh, when he's played over here or whatever other tours or any other stats you want to find on him, he is a long driver. I don't think the small sample sizes affect driving distance at all.
Yeah. You could also, if another way to do it is you could go into the conditions and add off the tee club selection driver heavy. Just, and looking through that lens for a lot of things this week, I think is probably a smart way to do it as well. But to your point, like we're getting a lot of that here duplicated out. So, Podguider, Thor Bjornsson, Rasmus Højgaard, Jesper Svensson, again, smaller sample. But again, guy hits it pretty far. That's those double L's. That's going to be Jose Luis Baero. My Spanish is not on point, but 2 rounds, but the kid hits it pretty far, obviously.
Baero.
Paul Waring, I believe that is Waring. Mullinex, Springer, Kitsuyama, Gotterup, Matty Schmidt.
Gotterup. Remember,
everyone was so excited about Gotterup coming up.
Cal said, he's like, you remember Gotterup? I'm like, I do. I watched him at the 3M. I watched him hit balls at the driving range for a bit. Just a unit. Absolute unit. And it was like 98 degrees. He was wearing all black. Just had to be miserable, but still hitting absolute bombs.
Yeah.
The other Højgaard.
The other Højgaard too, wrap it up. So yeah, I mean, everyone was so excited about Gotterup, and he was in the mix a little bit at the Farmers. And I think the first run of the Farmers, you're seeing some names that were there. Really, obviously, outside of Ludwig and with Day and Finau and Thigala and stuff like that. But a lot of these other guys that we have seen recently, including Potgeider, was in the Farmers, was in the mix a little bit too. Gotterup, I think, got a top 25. Springer was in the mix a little bit. Jesper was there. Højgaard's too. Thor. So some of those guys have played there as of late here too. So carry distance, great way to start it. We'll pop that in here. And again, unique to the rabbit hole. And I think the reason we're using carry this week again, this past Paulum grass surface, which is everywhere. It is the rough surface. It's the fairway surface. It's the green surface. It's a little sticky, a little spongy. You don't get quite as much rollout like you would. So driving distance is obviously going to capture where your ball stops. You can see Potgeider really separates comparatively on driving distance. We're going to look at carry because I think that's really what we're trying to capture here. All right. Carry distance, if I can smell. All right. Let's go back here. I want to look at just strokes gained total. I'm going to go back. I want a little bit of a bigger sample. And I just want to see how guys do. We can look at this ball striking wise. We can look at it off the tee. But let's just kick it out 3 years. Just see how guys do when it's driver heavy because it's a lot of driver this week. So a little bit of a double counting. We're going to look at through it instead of just raw, carry distance. We're going to look at it through the lens of a strokes gained metric. So we'll go off the tee. Driver heavy, last 3 years, big sample again. Some of these guys are still going to have the same small sample issue for sure.
Sort of ball striking.
Ball striking. It's going to give us a sense of who can handle this. And if not, we can also add long courses here too. What do you think?
I mean,
separate.
You already have driver heavy.
True.
I mean, are there 6,800 yard courses on tour that are driver heavy?
Probably one or two, but not very often.
I mean, kind of remember some of those top numbers and then add it, see what happens. So like Kitayama's 100 sample size roughly.
Yeah.
Add it to the filters and see what it does.
I bet it's pretty close. Let's go. Course length, long, very long. We'll take out,
Just
filtering out
short.
all the other stuff.
Watch Kitayama not being top anymore.
Yeah. He's close.
Alex Smalley. Kitayama right there.
Yep. I think this is a pretty decent sample. It's a long time for some of these guys, but I think this is we're getting some names that make sense, right? This is some combination of bringing in some of the ball striking stuff, but then also some of the longer drivers, some of the guys that we saw earlier. So in the sample, Smalley at the top, Kurt Kitayama, Kevin Yu, Nikolai Højgaard, Nick Hardy, Patty Rogers, Chuck Hoffman, Lanto Griffin, not a name you would expect. Does not hit it very far. Chan Kim, Akshay.
Good irons player, though.
Yeah, he is a good irons player. Good ball striker overall. Played well here last year. I think he was like 6th or 7th. Jaeger, Norgard, also another bomber. So yeah, some of the names too we saw here. Molnex, Svensson that we saw on the carry distance list. So I think it's interesting. We'll add it. Ball striker.
It's crazy too. If you're listening to this in audio form, the top of our list sorted by ball striking. The final 3 columns are around the green, putting, and then short game, which is
for sure,
the combination of the two. And there's a ton of red in the in the top 10, 15. I think the only guy who doesn't have any red, well, I guess Rogers, who obviously had a good finish the other day, and Akshay, your favorite. But man, there's a lot of guys who are just drive for dough, putt, no.
Yeah,
that's a different way to do the rhyme.
Yep.
And Akshay kind of used to be that guy where some of his putting was a little suspect.
Still can be. Still runs hot and cold comparatively for sure. All right, I like that. Very long golf courses, driver heavy, ball striking. That matters a ton this week. Proximity. Let's get in some longer proximity stuff. How do you want to just get into overall?
I don't, just because some of the guys have been quoted as, I don't give a shit if I'm in the rough. I'm ripping it down here. So I think overall proximity, which includes any balls that are hit, into the greens, whether it's, this counts tee shots on par 3s, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So any balls that are hidden in the green. So approach shots from the rough, from the fairway, or tee shots from the green. I guess on a par 4 too, if you have a reachable.
Overall proximity. I think there's other ways to do this as well. I do think that you can look at strokes gain approach on long and very long golf courses. It's going to give you, there's probably some noise in that. You're going to get some shorter stuff. But I think that's another way to look at it. If you want to actually get like strokes gain metrics, I think that's the best way to do that. Overall proximity, again, small sample theater.
Let's do some minimum rounds here. Just 16, 20, sure.
Yeah, let's go 20. This matters a little bit. 2 years.
Yeah, Thomas Rosenmuller.
Yeah.
German.
So we'll put a minimum round, 20 round feature. Last 2 years, overall proximity. We'll look at 200 plus and see what we get here. I know that guy. Michael Thor Bjornsson at the top. Chandler Phillips, second. Valimaki, also second. And again, I like to do this when we look at this too. You see Kitayama, second here to Rahm a couple years ago. Valimaki, second
here
last.
To average. Because I think we love looking at the ranks, but this is a really good one to look at the actual underlying data.
Yes, we're getting some confirmation bias in a way. We're getting guys that have played well here in the past. And I like when we see that because it tells us it is a stat that seems to maybe have a little bit more predictive, pull it for the future versus just, descriptive of how it's gone in the past.
It's not massive gaps.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pretty tight at the top.
For sure. Thor, Phillips, Valimaki, Kitayama, Chan Kim, your guy, Patrick Fishburne, Kevin Roy, the youngest of the Roy brothers, Alejandro Tosti, Memorial Park, he popped there. Tosti can hit it pretty far. Joel Damon, which is interesting. Jake Knapp, your defending champ. Chad Ramey, Nikolai Højgaard. So some other names too. Matty Schmidt was up there with distance. You see Jaeger, Hoffman again, Akshay. So yeah, not a huge gap here. There's Smalley, Rico, your guy Rico. So yeah, not a huge gap for sure. See who performs pretty poorly here. Our guy Patty.
250. Oh, that's fine. You can flip it the other way.
No, that's good. So same names again. Valimaki and Thor. Both of our Thors. Thor Bjorn Olsen, Hoffman, Toasty, Kitsuyama, Rasmus, Bridgman, Kevin Roy, Chandler Phillips. Kind of there at the top.
Canadian Svensson. Yeah, sort it the other way. See who's been bad. 200 to 250.
Look at the bad guys from Patty. Albertson. Frankie's your guy, right? It's a Minnesota kid.
Frankie Sappin. Third. That's
Peter Malnati.
He's starting to get a decent sample now.
Peter Malnati has played horrendous golf since winning the Valspar. That is the absolute, just for the Cam Young guys. You back Cam Young every week. He couldn't close and beat Peter Malnati, who's made 2 of 15 cuts since the win. Something that absolutely horrendous. He's starting to play in better fields, partially because he won last year, but it's been a tough scene for the yellow ball bucket-headed Peter Malnati. Remember Taylor Montgomery, when we thought Taylor Montgomery just had an absolute white hot swing season? We thought he was going to roll in. I mean, I burnt some money on Taylor Montgomery a couple Januaries ago, thinking that was going to.
I mean, yeah.
He hits it a mile and he can putt, and everything else it seems to be
everything else is broken. Yeah, approach just isn't there at times. Speaking of the Valspar, new monthly subs who sign up want to play with some of these tools. It takes you through the Valspar, not through it, but into it, because we put fields up. You can start modeling and doing your fields on the Friday prior. So the Mexican Open has been up for 3-4 days now. So yep. Mexico Open, COG, API, the players, and Valspar included for new subs. If you want a discount, DM us on Twitter. I'll give you one. I don't care. Anything to get you to try it out. Obviously, especially for new users. If you already have it, Jesus, just pay for it. You like it. But new users want to try it out, hit me up. I'll give you a discount. And yeah, the Malnati thing. I mean, that happens. It's like the Jim Herman thing. Jim Herman's not.
Davis Riley. I tweeted it out yesterday from the house account. Davis Riley not only won an event last year that Scotty Scheffler was in, he held off Scheffler on the final round, and he has been an absolute train wreck since.
Golf is funny.
Golf's hard.
It's very
hard. To Andy's point, part of it too, you don't have time or interest to build your own models. Go in here and wisdom of the crowd it. Saw some great examples of that. Some subscribers in the chat on Monday morning had already made some bets before Ron and I pushed out bets, because they just went in and looked at some of the early runs of other folks here in their expert rankings, saw some commonalities at the top, and fired on some bets before they got any other content, because they saw some of the names there at the very top. It'll help you pick off some soft numbers on a Monday before you even listen to, Andy Lack's show or read Matt Vicenzi's, article, or our guy Joe I, Tour Picks, Hasselbauer over at PGA Touts over on the lines. Really sharp folks using this to build their models, drive their content. You can get it before they even put the content out. So huge advantage for subscribers to go in and look at the models here each week. And again, if you're comfortable with the CSV and Excel and you want to kind of combine and just take the wisdom of the crowd models and spit out your own model from it too, you can do it. You can download any of these columns or models into a CSV and do it that way too. So great resource here if you don't want to do the work for yourself, which, I get it. Not everyone has the time that we have. This is what we do. So life is hard. Time is fleeting. Let's take advantage of that too.
Real exercise.
We're all going to die, eat Arby's, download the CSVs.
Yeah, download the CSV. Also, too, well, I'll show you when we get to the model. Anything else? Do you want putting stats?
I don't care for putting stats a ton, but
It
let's we can
doesn't
do
feel.
some.
It feels like a week that putting matters, but we're not gonna. Nothing is gonna be predictive, and I don't even want you to click on it.
I think
Scoring is
scoring.
good.
Yeah,
I
I'll
looked
always
at birdies and bet. So I was working on the one and done stuff this morning, and I did look at birdies are better. On I think similar courses was one that I picked out where it's like, but people do have to score. I need to look for some of these, and it's funny too. Some of them are just bright green birdie or better rates, but also bright red on bogey avoidance, where it's like, oh, you're volatile, fun.
yeah.
Like you're and honestly, somebody like that, Theo Bornson, I don't I don't know that I'll ever use him in a matchup because he's this way. He can absolutely piss himself, not like the other Thor. Um, it's bad. Like he can have some bad chunks, but he has such a high end upside. He's a good outright bet. Probably not a great outright bet every week, like some people I know that do that.
What?
And in a bad field like this, he's probably a good outright bet. Like he's somebody I have circled.
Yeah, just these young kids too.
I'm
Obviously,
assuming you bet him already.
there's a ton of
It's
variance.
like 60-1, man.
Yeah, I mean, I bet him obviously. Birdies are better. Last 2 years, minimum round feature of 20. We want to make sure we're kind of ciphering out some of the smaller sample guys. Michael Thor Bjornsson, Jesper Svensson, Joe Highsmith, Harry Hall, Jacob Bridgman, Rico Hoey again, Kevin Yu, Chan Kim, Eric Van Rooyen, and Michael Kim right there. And then some other names, really guys that have been right in the mix. We've seen a bunch here. Schmidt, Young, Toasty, Jaeger, Akshay, Springer, Fishburne. These guys have been in, the top 20 in a lot of the different things we've filtered through. So it does feel like, in a sense, there is some straightforwardness to the week for sure. So we'll add birdie or better the last 2 years. We only have 4 things in the model, which I'm okay with. I want to look at corollary courses.
That's
We're going to back.
I'm okay with it. One more thing.
Yeah, it's not we always do it. 4 things is light, but I like that we do that here, right? It's a kind of a uniquer way that we do that. I'm going to pull this up so I have access to it. I can see. I'll type these in.
I like you coined a word there. Uniquer.
Creating words. All right, we're going to go with the listed corollary courses from the PGA Tour. Look at the Grand Reserve, Corrales, El Cardinal, the Monte, Congaree.
Just Spanish for the Nino, Craig Ranch,
Session, Plantation.
The only course named after a moment.
I cannot wait to go back to Memorial Park. It's a great golf course. It challenges the heck out of these guys. All right, last 3 years, corollary courses. I'll have to take off the 20 round minimum, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of these guys aren't playing a ton. We're looking at birdie or better. Let's go back to just overall strokes gained total. Who's played the best on the courses that are similar? You're getting some coastal courses. You're going to get some Paspalum here tied into the strokes gained total. Driver heavy, longer approach stuff. I think it does got to tell a decent story here. At the top, tied, Michael Kim and Alex Smalley. Akshay 3, Taylor Moore 4th, Sam Stevens 5th, Justin Lauer 6, Highsmith 7, Rasmus Højgaard 8, Steven Jaeger 9, Kurt Kitayama 10. This feels like it matters a little bit this week. So strokes gained total, corollary.
At it. Robert Ferenc is asking about Jaeger for one and done. So many things I've run, he's just outside the top 10. I think in a lot of models he's going to be in the top 10. It's a weird week for one and done. Very small purse, 7 million, only 1.2 for the winner. Feels like Akshay would be pretty popular. Smalley's probably pretty popular as well. There's a ton of guys here where I don't know that you have to overthink this one too much. If you like Akshay, is there like some event down the road where like, I was really saving Akshay for the the U.S. Open or something along those lines. Like, it's going to be incredibly popular. So, I mean, if you're way behind already and you need to make up some ground, I think you can get squirrely with it. But I don't think you need to go down to like the 100 to 1 people to get squirrely. There's going
Correct.
to be so many different names used. I mean, a bunch of people are going to use Rasmus. A bunch of people are going to use Kitayama, Kevin Yu, Patrick Rogers. Jaeger is probably going to be one of the popular ones too. But when I say popular, I don't think anyone's going to have like, oh, 50% of the pot used a guy like this or something wild. It's going to be pretty spread out. So I don't think it's going to be tough to be unique in this. And honestly, just pick the guy you like. You know, if you're looking at the odds board and everybody was just 10 to 1, who would you bet?
Yeah.
And Jaeger's probably in that conversation.
I'm leaning Jaeger right now. I haven't locked anything in. It's Tuesday, so we have a little bit of time. I agree. Akshay's there. I think both Højgaards probably are viable. Obviously, Rasmus betting board would tell you that Rasmus is the way for sure. Yeah, it is kind of a tough one because there's, Akshay is nice. Definitely the class of the field, just in terms of caliber of player. I feel like, but I don't know. I haven't got there yet.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like a big game theory week, or you need to fade the public chalk or go against the field. It feels like just pick who you like to win this tournament. So you should use someone that's on your outright card, which is not always the case for one and done.
Sure,
because price.
Jaeger's been here
matters.
three times for Jaeger, teeing it up in this event too. T15 or better in all of them. Not a huge course history place yet. Obviously, it's small sample, but familiarity here helps a little bit too, comparatively worse. Not necessarily seeing Rasmus here every year, or I believe Nikolai was here last year, but yeah, it's a tough week. It'd be interesting to see. All right, let's see what we get. This is we only had 4, so we only had 3. We got a new feature. I want to make sure I name it better for us to be able to see. So this is Mexico betting show with Andy and Noonan. Because it's just going to say me and the thing. We'll save it as an expert. What do you want to do? 25 apiece?
Oh, man. Ball striking should be the heaviest. Honestly, ball striking should be 50% of this model if we're only having 4 things.
It's true.
Seriously, make it 50. And then, it leaves you, 20, 20, 10?
Yeah.
15, 15, 20?
Let's leave Carrie up there. And we'll drop this down a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
There we go.
I'm fine with that. So 50% to ball striking, 25% to carry distance, 15 to birdies or better, and 10% to that corollary course stat we used.
I'm going to flip these.
Yep. We're going to name it Mexico Betting Show.
Mexico Betting Show.
Kurt Kitayama. Nikolai Højgaard. Alex Smalley, who's popping in everyone's. Our guy, Stefan Jager. It's a soft J.
The German.
Kevin Yu, who's popping for a lot of people. Akshay, again, your favorite. Chan Kim, I think he was on top of Ron's model. Chuck Hoffman, who plays good sometimes still. He still has it, but he
still hit it far. He can get it out there.
But he can absolutely play bad golf right now.
Yeah.
We've seen that a little bit over the last couple of years. Nick Hardy, number 9. Sam Stevens, who did play Torrey last week. Number 10. Rogers did as well. 11. Hayden Springer, 12. Joe Highsmith. Get to know him. Trey Mullinax, Luke List, Patrick Fishburne.
The burn, feel the burn.
Jesper Svensson, the Swede. Matty Schmid, another German. Lashley and Rico Hoey, who popped as number 1 in my model last year, using last year's model with this year's field. I did pull this up. This is fun because, oh man, I have so many tabs open, Ryan. It's honestly a tragedy at this point. I pulled up last year's newsletter because I'm like, I bet I put a screenshot of like my model in it from last year and who I liked. And and it was some strange names. It certainly wasn't Nap at the top, but all the stuff. It's funny. All like the news and notes I had were Masters related. There was a bunch of Masters news that came out this time last year, so that kind of got me excited.
I've already started working on the Masters preview. Started pulling, finishing position data and some of that stuff to get ready for the preview. We're getting there.
Jaeger was second in my model last year. Tony Finau #1, which that was kind of like a no shit. He's 12,000. His salary was literally 12,000 at DK. He had to be #1. Pendrith, Stevens, Cameron Champ, Hubbard, Vegas, Wu, Rye, and then Nikolai Højgaard. So a couple of repeaters for me there, but yeah, Jaeger was high in my model last year as well.
Yep, not surprising. I like it. This new little generate image feature is awesome. Share these on social. This is Andy's baby, which he's been dreaming up from the get-go, which I think is really cool. That's actually, now it's going to make me have to share it in a different tab, but you can share it directly to any of these resources. Obviously, you can download it here. Obviously, social shares. Share your stuff. Tag us in it. Love to see your model. I know these are randomly number generated up here too in the custom report. I know Andy likes to go in and just type in a number, look at different random models that people build. I think I've been doing it too. I think it's really cool to do that. I created a channel on our Discord so people are hopefully get more comfortable in sharing their models because I just like to see how people do it and how people land on what they land on for the week. So share your stuff, put it out there. I would love to see as many models as possible. So tag us at Betsperts Golf when you share it. It's a new feature for us instead of you having to take a screenshot.
Yeah, if you're the kind of person who nobody retweets you, you tag us. Share this thing, tag us. I'll retweet you this week.
Yep.
It's Mexico week. You want to retweet? Tag me. Not me. Betsperts Golf.
I'll show you what it looks like. I put it at the bottom of my article for the week. Looks just like this. Nice little this is why you got to make sure I got to start to, annoyingly put my name in it or something because it otherwise just gets this basic boring little thing. But yeah, top 10 of my model here. Some similar names to what we just spit out here as well. So yeah, this little image we'll share. Would love to see as many as possible. So
who'd you bet before I go? I don't have any bets yet. I'll just say that. I'm looking at Michael Kim. I wish his price were longer. I cheer for him. I root for him. He played so well. I said you don't need form, but Christ, he's playing good. Van Rooyen popped in a couple things for me. Fishburne, and then I'll probably bet Theor Bjornsson because I don't know if I can watch you win and not have him as well. And I actually think he can win this week. And the fifth one that I haven't bet any of these, but these are kind of the short list right now. Rico Hoey as well.
You got to have Rico Hoey. That's your guy. Feels like a Rico Hoey. And he fits, right? It's the same thing with Thor. Like this isn't a blind Thor bet for me compared to other weeks. This is like Thor actually has the upside pedigree to kind of make it work here. He's young still, doesn't have a ton of reps, so you're going to see a lot of variance. We see it in the numbers. But he also has some of the upside and just good on long approaches, hits it a mile. It can make birdies. Like those are kind of, if we boiled it down, which we kind of did, it makes sense for him to be pretty solid in our model. Was he 29th? He didn't get anything in terms of the correlated courses, but you could see, he was first and second in 2 of the 4 off the stats that we use this week. So I went Jaeger at the top. I thought 30 was a little too long for this field for Jaeger. Again, it's not like a guy that wins a ton, but this is the field that we're dealing with this week where we have some of these other guys that are, 20 or south of 20. I thought Jaeger a little too long. What are we looking at outrights now on him? He's, still 28s are out there at FanDuel, DraftKings, a little shorter on Chris. I feel good about that.
Yeah.
So, Smalley as well, our model darling. Cannot believe I did not expect to be on Alex Smalley this week. He came out tops in my model. Turns out I was not alone. I know, I believe Andy Lack and some of his team had Smalley on top of the model. I believe there's at least one more in our expert ranking section that had Smalley on the top. I grabbed a 50 yesterday. We're down to basically 35, 28s in some spots. He's south of 40 on Chris as well. Those are my only 2 guys that are south of 70. Otherwise, I went and sprayed and prayed down the board. But Smalley and Jaeger are the top for me.
I like it. Yeah, if you have some outrights we didn't discuss and you think we should have, some long shots, and there's a lot of names in the field we didn't get to. If you're in the Discord, tag us and talk. If you're on Twitter, hell, we have Blue Sky. Not a lot of followers over there, but we're on Blue Sky. And if you tag us, we'll butterfly you back or whatever it is called. So
I lied. I also have Nikolai. I had a Nikolai at 55 as well. So that's my other south of 70. But yeah.
As much as I talked him up now, I may have to go hunt down a good Jaeger price. I can't bet him at 22.
Yeah.
At Chris, but see if I can go find a better price at like, let's see what bet online's 25. You know, I'm not driving to Florida, or I'm not driving to Iowa for the tennis open. Maybe our friends at ProfitX. I'm cutting it close in my meeting here, but they do have golf now. Theirs is fun too because they list like the top, I don't know, like 20 guys. And then from there, just there's a field price after that. And it's usually a pretty decent price because you're only going, the field, all others not listed is even money right now, plus 100.
Interesting.
I can get Jaeger. Oh man, their Jaeger price is beat up too. $22.50. It's there's a lot of money available in the no. So somebody went pretty heavy. There's some decent liquidity on a few of these names. Yeah, the best Jaeger price I can find is 25. I might buy it. I might buy that bullet. God damn it. It's one of those things where you can't complain. If
it's not that bad.
25 to 1 last week was nice.
Yeah. The money's still green. So yeah, top of the board, I guess, for me, Jaeger, Smalley, Højgaard, and those guys you're in 50. Otherwise, I'm spraying down the board with some bombs. Antoine Rosner's a guy that is not going to do anything in the model that I like quite a bit. Has played really well. If you on the DP World Tour, barely ever plays stateside, hits it far. Irons are in really good form, and that's a guy too. Like Thor, like Rosner is either top 10 or he misses the cut. He out of his last 25 events, he's got 8 top 10s, 8 missed cuts. That guy does not mess around with top 30s, top 40s. Skip that guy in any of that stuff. You swing at the top, outright top 10. Or nothing else on an Antoine Rosner at 90, like that one down the board. So
perfect. So, all right. Appreciate you guys. We'll catch you next week. Good luck in Mexico. Like I said, hit us up on Twitter, in the Discord, anywhere else you can find me, or Ron, or Ryan, or the team. And we'd love to chat some golf with you. We'll see you then.